7 years ago, I was the owner-operator of a vegetable farm right here in Winkler-Morden. We grew a variety of vegetables, ranging from peas and beans to sweet corn for the Morden Corn and Apple Festival. We also had just teamed up with a new company out of Portage to do some organic pumpkin puree. So we did about 2 or 3 acres that year, and it went really well. The company asked us if we wanted to expand, and the next year we were going to do about 50 acres, which for me is a lot of vegetables. We also happened to be building a production facility at the same time, and luckily we thought, you know what, let's just make the facility a little bit bigger to accommodate this, and we'll take on the pumpkins, so we said yes. Fast today, and I no longer grow any vegetables. I'm the founder of Manitoba's first apple-to-bottle distillery, packaging close to 60,000 liters of cider right here in Winkler. I don't really know how I got from there to here. If I didn't take a few key chances along the way, I would not be where I am today. So to kind of paint this picture fully, I have to go back and tell you a little bit more about those wonderful pumpkins. You see, we grew 50 acres of them. It's about 500,000 pounds of pumpkins. We had never done it before. So we bought new equipment. Like I said, we built a new production facility. We weeded these pumpkins, we harvested these pumpkins, we washed them, and we delivered them. We did really well, actually. I was really surprised or really grateful for the great team I have around me to help me complete this. And after we were all done and the pumpkins were shipped away and I was just waiting for the check to come, I thought, you know what? Let's head down to South America and go for a little vacation. So my cousin and I went to Peru and did some cool treks like Machu Picchu, and as you can see here, the Rainbow Mountain. And when I got back home, we landed at the airport and my parents picked me up. When my dad picked me up, he kind of had a bit of a weird look in his eye. So I waited in the car and we were driving home and I asked my dad, what's going on, is something wrong? And that's when he told me the puree plant had gone bankrupt and were not going to pay us. So, as you can imagine, a guy who staked a lot of stuff into this succeeding, I was pretty worried. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I knew if I didn't do anything, my family would have an even harder decision about what to do with our farmyard and our new facility and how do we make that all work. So I knew I had to do something. That's when, luckily, a vegetable colleague of mine approached us after hearing about this and said, do you guys want to buy our apple press? They'd bought a commercial apple press to process apples, but for reasons kind of out of their control, they weren't allowed to use it at their facility. So I did some digging around and looked and thought, you know what? Everyone's got an apple tree in their backyard, and everyone doesn't know what to do with those apples, you know. You make 1 pie, you make 2 pies. The rest get thrown in a garbage bag, or they fall on the ground and you end up with 100 wasps in your backyard. We've all been there. And I also knew that when I was younger, my parents took our apples to a place in Steinbach, but they had a fire and no longer existed. So I figured there was kind of a gap in the market and maybe we could make this work. So we bought the apple press. And that following year, we started Brewali Juice Company. Our goal, we kind of had 3 different ways we were going to make money doing this. We were going to do custom pressing. You bring us your apples, we give you some juice back. Or we were going to buy apples from people and sell the juice to my existing customers that I had through vegetable business. And our final third one we were going to do was we were going to sell bulk cider, I thought we could, bulk cider to breweries in Winnipeg and places like that. You see, it was kind of new. There's more craft breweries popping up, and I figured one of them would want to eventually, you know, start doing cider. And the first year, everything went pretty much as planned. I managed to sell a decent amount through retail customers. I actually found someone to buy bulk cider, and they took about 5,000 liters on their first order. And they called me back about a month later and said, Marcus, can you still get apples? We want to do more cider. And me, being the ever optimist, I was like, yes, go get more apples. So they gave me like 2 weeks or something like that to find the apples, and I went out, searched around, found them, bought them, called them back and said, all right, when do you need the apples delivered? And this is when they told me, once again, they didn't need them anymore. They canceled on me. So this is the second time where something had gone wrong that I felt like I did everything right or I did what I was supposed to, and it still didn't go my way. But this happened to turn out to be kind of the thing that changed my whole career up until that point or up until now. Because apples are perishable and I need to sell this juice, I got on the phone and called a bunch of different breweries and cideries from Ontario to Alberta. And I happened to get one call back from a gentleman who was a cider maker in Saskatchewan. And he actually happened to be in Winnipeg and said, you know what, I'll just drive out to the cidery, we can chat about it. So Peter came down, and within 15 minutes of being in our building, he said to me, Marcus, you need to just start a cidery. He said, you already have the building, you already have the press, and you already have access to good apples. Making the cider is just a little bit more. He said, I'll help you with that. Just give me a good price on apples. So again, here I was, never having made a boxed wine or anything like that in my life. I had a decision to make. Do I go and start a cidery? And with new instilled confidence that Peter put into me by saying, you know what, I'll help you, we did. So we filled out the paperwork, and Dead Horse Cider was born. Now, fast forward a bit of time, we've gone from bottles to cans and expanded and opened a tap room. It's been a very rewarding and fulfilling experience, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. Last year, we saved about 125,000 pounds of apples from going to waste here in Manitoba. Created a whole market for these kind of apples that wasn't there previously. Like I said before, we package about 60,000 liters annually. We've even won a couple international awards. And I hope this continues to grow for many more years. None of this would have happened if that pumpkin business didn't fail. That's kind of something to think about. I mean, as an entrepreneur, maybe some of you are too, how do you view failure, right? The end of the pumpkins was really the start of something new. Without that happening, I would probably still be washing pumpkins. And let me tell you, washing 500,000 pounds of pumpkins is quite boring. I didn't wash that many, but my wonderful employees still talk about it to this day. I say, we could be washing pumpkins, guys. That's kind of the going along. And even today with the cidery, I know that the cidery could fail too. It might not work out. I might have to try something new. But honestly, what's the worst that happened? I'd have to go get a real job, or maybe Larry would send his guys after me. But at the end of the day, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I have good friends and family, I'll be okay. I almost view the failure of that pumpkin business as kind of a stroke of luck. And that's something else, as entrepreneurs, I think is overlooked a little bit, is you really do have to get lucky. You have to get lucky. You have to be at that right place at the right time. I mean, in my story, I built a building for processing pumpkins, and it happened to very easily convert to being a cidery. I called around to a bunch of random strangers and met a guy who happened to be a mentor and helped me start my cidery from the ground up. We live in Morden, where the Morden Research Station has an apple called a Kerr apple that was developed in the 1950s. This little apple turns out to be one of the best cider apples, rosé cider to be specific, in North America. We won an international cider competition for best rosé, all because of that apple. To meeting my future business partner at a charity dinner that I almost didn't go to because we harvested corn for 12 hours that day. I have gotten extremely lucky in what I do, but I never would have got any of these lucky breaks if I wasn't willing to just try. And that's kind of the idea I want to leave with you guys. Opportunities can come when you least expect them and where you least expect them. You just got to be willing and ready to try something new. And if you're lucky enough like myself, you might end up also finding you have a passion for that stuff. I never used to care about cider. Now you'll find me at home reading books about different apples and varieties and orchards and, studying different tap rooms and looking at layouts and what tables they're using and all that stuff. And if you told me any of that 7 years ago, I would tell you, you probably had one too many cider.